Thank you for your interest in Top Deck Levelers. My name is Ray LaFerrier. Today I'm going to do an instructional video on how to install our Top Deck Levelers. It's a very simple installation. This is basically for new builds. I've been asked numerous times whether or not this could be installed in existing decks, and that of course depends on who built your deck and how your deck has been built. These have been designed to go with a triple beam design for your main beam, and I'm sure it can be incorporated in many different ways, but again, it all depends on the build and who built your deck and how it's structurally built. Before I get going, I'd like to also discuss a little bit with you that it was brought forward, and I've had a lot of comments where people are saying, well, you know, why would I use those when I can just do screw piles and my deck will never shift? And the interesting part of it is most of the screw piles out on the market right now are adjustable to adjust different heights of your deck. So that kind of answered the question that I've always said to people. It doesn't matter where you are, the ground shifts. Your deck will shift no matter what. Doesn't matter if you've got concrete piers, whether you've got screw piles, everything shifts. Houses shift, everything shifts. So this is to take the terrible job of crawling under a deck to try and level it, even if with the jack screws and that they have in the market right now. You still got to get on your hands and knees. You got to get under your deck. You got to crawl through the dirt and the webs and the whatever critters are underneath your deck and go in there and jack everything up to get it level again. With my system, you do everything from the top of the deck. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead right now and I'm going to construct a triple beam, which in Manitoba, basically I'm using a 2x8, 12 foot long with 18-inch overhang from where the beam or where the post is going to be situated. So we'll just take things from there, and we've got a video. Follow along with the video. It's quite simple. I'll do a basic layout of everything, and we'll catch up in a little bit here. I got to get to work. I'm a firm believer with the beams that I prefer to use the GRK screws. That way they're a structural screw. I think they're a fantastic product, and I like using them, especially when it comes to structural work. We've marked our beam. We've got our 1.5 inch space that we've left for the deck leveling bolt. What we're going to do is we're going to cut this section out before we glue our third beam on here. So that's basically what I'm going to do now. So now that we've got our beam all screwed together, our next step is we're gonna mount Top Deck Leveler. But before we mount that, a good habit to get into, these are hardened bolts, which are very, very strong. They've got a tensile strength rating of 15,000 pounds, I believe. Don't quote me on that, it might be a little bit more, but they are very, very strong. But what we're doing is just putting a bit of grease on here. And what that helps you with over the years is, of course, corrosion. But being inside the board and being out of the elements, there shouldn't be an issue with that. I've got some that have been out in the field for a couple of years now, and they work perfectly fine. There's been no problems whatsoever. My first prototypes of this, I did a deck out in Golden, BC in the mountains. And with all the snow and everything else that they get buried in out there. And talking with my son, who's the one I built it for, he's quite happy. He said there's been no issues whatsoever. So that's a good thing. That's what we want. So from that point, the plates themselves are 4 inches. So basically what you're doing is, or they're 4.5, sorry. So basically what you're doing, 2 1/4, that's pretty much center right there. If you're out a little bit, like I say, it really doesn't matter that much. But if you're a perfectionist like myself, we want to get that spot on. These are designed, the holes that were laser cut in here are designed for the 1/4 inch GRK screws. So that's what I like using, again, because they're structural. And I'll tag them in, and they fit nicely into the hole. It's a perfect fit. So it pulls them in. It's basically all it's doing is holding it into position. It wouldn't, even if there was no screws in there, once the weight is on it, those aren't even going to turn. But these, I mean, as far as building codes and everything else goes, it's important that you're following the regulations and making everybody happy. So. Footprint is the most important thing on any deck, and I think that's where most of the failures are, in my opinion. I've seen a few, and I've built quite a few decks, and in that time frame, I mean, I've seen a lot of crap out there, and a lot of it comes down to the base that you're using, and going to small concrete pads that really are not going to support anything as far as a footprint goes. So. Again, these here, I'm just kind of centering it on the top of the post. It doesn't need to be exact, because once this is locked in here, it's not going anywhere. Okay, so now you can see we've got this locked into our posts here. I mean, you're always going to have a little bit of shake on these. On any post for that matter, until you get your actual joist and your deck box on top, because the deck box, the joist normally screw to your beam. So, but what we can do here, as far as a contractor or even the homeowner can do, once your beam is set, and this is something that I've run into in the past, building decks personally, is you get everything set up on your post, and then you got to go in, you got to try and shim everything to get your post level. This way is simple. All you're doing, we're not that far out here, but I just go in. You can tweak it up a little bit. You can go a little bit more. Now we're level. Now that we've got everything leveled here, I wanted to point out something, is that depending on the length of your main beam, in some areas, and depending on the inspector and the code in that area, the longer the beam, they're more than likely going to ask for some kind of stability. They want some kind of stabilizers on the end of it. Even though it is screwed to the deck box and everything, it really doesn't have anywhere to go. We have developed what we call our stabilizer plates, and these are actually very good, because what they do is basically you're mounting this to your main beam, and I'll on just for the sake of doing it. And again, these are drilled out to accept a GRK 1/4 inch. Put one on the other side. And these only have to go on the outer posts. Because these are 3/16 plate steel. They are very strong, and if it's a stability issue that the building inspectors are concerned about, this will take care of that issue. Basically, I'm roughly just eyeballing it, but if you line up right above the curvature, it's about the same stroke as what you'll be allowed to adjust these things with anyway. So. There you go. Look at that. Stabilize the whole thing. Now you have one on either end there, it's rock solid, and just so you can see for yourself, you can still adjust. adjusted. So, okay, as far as adjustment goes, all you need is basically a 21 millimeter. These are 7/8 bolts, but a 21 millimeter seems to fit that really nice. It's a 12-point socket. Just slip it in there, put it on your ratchet, and away you go. It adjusts very easily. Keep checking back with us because we are in the midst of manufacturing a special tool just for the deck levelers, so that you don't have to worry about scrambling around for sockets and everything else. Check back with us soon. That will be added onto our product list in the near future. Thank you.